Okay, this is our daily study of Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah Ethics of the Fathers, for those who have yard site for tonight, the 19th of Sivan. Abraham Bettinger, Sarah Callis, Eva Katz, Mary Kocharov, Etta Kushner, Sarah Schultz, and Joel Winston. May their memory be for a blessing. A link to the text of the Mishnah will be in the first comment below. One of the great statements of the great Rabbi Akiva, who's one of our greatest sages, is Mishnah chapter 3, Mishnah 14. This is a fundamental aspect of Judaism. Hu haya omer, he used to say, Rabbi Akiva that is, Chaviv Adam shenivra b'tzelem. Beloved is man, for he was created in the image of God. Chiba yasera nodas lo shenivra b'tzelem. Still greater was this love, in that it was made known to him that he was created in the image of God. Shenemar, b'tzelem Elohim asa es Adam. As it is written in Genesis, in the image of God, he made man. So this is sort of fascinating that Rabbi Akiva is just pointing out what the Torah says, that human being was created in the image of God. And what does the image of God mean? I mean, you might think that God has a body similar to man, and he created us to look like him. Well, Maimonides says in his 13 Principles of Faith that would be heresy. We're not allowed to believe that God has a body because that would make God just another idol, like limit him. God is invisible. He's everywhere and nowhere, and it's hard for us to really understand that. He can't be contained by a body. So it doesn't mean literally that we look like his image. The commentaries, Rashi and Rambam and Ramban point out, it means we have human dignity, which is the same as divine dignity, the image of God. Just like we understand that God's existence is objective and important, so too is the existence of every human life objective and important. And Rashi also points out it means we have the capacity of God, which is to reason and to think. We have rationality. We can think about the past and the future. And of course, we actually believe that animals have a certain dignity also. Tsar Balechayim causing distress or pain to animals is forbidden, and they have a special status as creatures of God, also created by God, who we have to be compassionate toward. It says in Ashrei V'rachamav al kol ma'asav, that God's compassion is upon all his creations. That includes the animals. But so it's not a false dichotomy here, but human beings have this extra level of the image of God. We have a divine-like dignity, which is even higher, not just created by God, but have the divinity of God within us and that ability to reason, and that our lives sort of objectively matter in that sense. Um, okay, now what's fascinating about this is he says, and wasn't it nice? It's kind of funny, like when rabbis point out something, sometimes the best wisdom is something that's right there under your nose. I always point that out that you never thought about. That's what this is. It shows incredible compassion that God informed us that he created us in his image in the Torah, which is kind of funny, right? Like, imagine if God created us in his image, but he never told us that. There's a lesson here that no, God put it in the Torah, so the reader has to know, I created you in my image. So there's clearly an ethical lesson there. Human beings are supposed to internalize that, and that's God's compassion that he informed us of this, so that we could internalize the lesson and treat each other accordingly with that level of dignity. Okay. And also, according to this, some of the commentaries point out that God made Adam know himself, right? Another thing you don't think about, that we the reader, are sitting there knowing that man was created in the image of God, but did Adam and Eve know that? So, according to this, one interpretation of Rabbi Akiva, God made Adam and Eve know. He informed them, I created you in my image. It doesn't say explicitly in the Torah that he told them this, but he did. Okay. Chaviv Yisrael shenikru banim lamakom. So, uh, let's see. Okay, so then going further, it says, Beloved are Israel, for they are called children of God. Still greater was this love, in that it was made known to them that they are children of God. As it is written in Deuteronomy, you are the children of the Lord your God. Okay, so Israel has an even higher level. All human beings are created in the image of God. That's universal because all humans are descended from Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were not Jewish, right? The first Jew, if you will, even though the anachronistic term is really Abraham. But the Jewish people, Israel, are not just in the image of God, but are the children of God, which is a higher level. Now, this speaks to the chosenness of the Jewish people, which is kind of a controversial doctrine. But as I always point out, and as rabbis have always pointed out throughout the ages, chosenness does not mean for more privilege, but rather for more responsibility. It's a very important distinction. Chosenness does not mean more rights. It's actually the opposite. More chosenness means chosen to observe all the laws of the Torah. There are 7 Noahide laws. There are 7 universal laws: the basic social contract against killing and stealing, and theological elements against like worshiping other gods. Um, but only the Jewish people have 606 additional commandments, 613 total, like kosher and Shabbat and all these ritual laws, because we're meant to be a light unto the nation. So we are chosen for that more responsibility on our shoulders. And in that sense, we're like the children of God who have to uphold his revelation on the highest level. And the Kahati points out that sometimes we're called foolish children or bad children. So it says in Jeremiah, they are my foolish children. In Deuteronomy, it says, children in whom there is no faithfulness. So God is like a real parent. My worthless kids, they're so bad, So that's what children doesn't always mean for more privilege. It means for more scrutiny and more rebuke as well, as we see throughout history. God is harshest on us in His words of prophecy, and sadly, in how history plays out too. Um, so you can, again, this is the second straight day that I'll appeal to the Fiddler on the Roof. God, you chose us, but couldn't you have chosen someone else? I think it says that in Fiddler on the Roof. That's kind of the Jewish understanding of chosenness as more of a burden and a weight than a privilege. Okay, of course, ideally it should be a little bit of both. Now, but not just that, but God made it known to us that we are His children, because He said, "Bani matem l'Hashem Elokechem," you are children to the Lord your God. So that ought to like empower us. Even Yisrael shanitan lehem nitan lehem kli chemda chibi yaser nodas lehem shanitan lehem kli chemda shebo nivra ha'olam shenemar ki lekach tov nasati lechem torasi al ta'azovu. We sing this every time we're putting the Torah back in the ark. Beloved are Israel, for to them was given a precious instrument. Still greater was this love, in that it was made known to them that to them was given a precious instrument, with which the world was created. As it is written, for I have given you a good doctrine, forsake not my Torah. So we were given the Torah, but God also made known to us how precious it is. He said, hey, I gave you something good here, don't forsake it. And we sing that before we put the Torah back in the ark, which is fitting because we're putting the Torah away, so to speak. Think about that. That's why we sing it before we close the ark. We're closing the curtain, but we're never forsaking the Torah. Don't confuse putting away the Torah with ever forsaking it. It's always part of our life. And it also says here the Torah is the tool with which the world was created. So the rabbis have a midrash, Histakel Be'oraiso Bara Alma, that God looked into the Torah and then created the universe. The Torah is the blueprint of the universe. It's kind of fascinating from a spiritual perspective how that works. Meaning, it's very mystical, a deep idea. You shouldn't think that first there's a universe and then God created a Torah to respond to the circumstantial conditions of the universe. It's actually the opposite. First came the truth of the Torah, preceded the universe, and God built the world we live in based on the truth of the Torah. So, as one rabbi, a teacher of mine, put it to me, you might think that the fifth commandment, honor your father and mother, is because the way that human life developed is we're produced by parents, and therefore God in the Torah responds to that by saying, honor those parents. But he said, no, it's the wrong cause and effect. Before the world was created, God determined that there ought to be an institution of parents, right? The Torah comes first, and that's why he created the universe with parents in it. So, right, the Torah comes first, and then the universe comes after, and that's I think there's a similar debate in Greek philosophy. Does God command something because it is good, or is it good because God commanded it? You could rabbis like to debate these things for hours, but it's certainly something profound to dwell upon. Okay, with that, anyway, this is of all the Mishnahs of Pirkei Avot are fundamental, but this is one of the more fundamental of all of them. Important Mishnah today. Okay. The El Malay. El Malay Rachamim Shochen Bamiromim Hamitzei Menucha Nechon Al Kanfei HaShechina B'malos Kedoshim Tahorim Kizar Harakia Mashirim Es Nishmos Kol Askaros Shel Halayla Shel Chuli Olamam Ba'avur Shem Mispalim Bad Haskaras Nishmasam Began Eden Tehem Menuchasam Lachein Bal Harachamim Yastireim B'Seser Kenefav Liolamim Yitzror B'Tzorachayim Es Nishmasam Adonai unachlasam yanuchu b'shalom mishkavasam and omar amen. And in English, O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of the divine presence, and the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine like the glow of the firmament. For the souls of Abraham Bettinger, Sarah Callis, Eva Katz, Mary Kocherov, Etta Kushner, Sarah Schultz, and Joel Winston, in whose memory we study and pray. May their resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the Master of Mercy shelter them in the shelter of his wings for eternity. May he bind their soul in the bond of life. Hashem is their heritage. May they rest in peace. And let us say Amen.